Tell us a bit about what you're doing now, Zoe.
Okay. So I'm in the RPO, Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm the third horn there, third of five, and we've got a full section, which is great. So we've got an appointed member on every seat. And I joined the orchestra about a year and a bit ago. I was on trial there for a year before that, and I freelanced before that as well. And I started teaching at the college. I started there in September. So that's quite new for me as well. My last teaching job before that was a primary school. That was a big age difference. And yeah, I'm in Connaught Brass, which is a brass quintet. Their previous horn player moved to Frankfurt about a year ago-ish. And yeah, she decided she wanted to stay there. So they asked if I would join. So I'm not a founding member. I didn't sort of go through all of the years of formation. I got to sort of jump in at the end product, a bit sneaky, and sort of have a couple of other chamber music groups going, but they're a bit more quiet and in the background. And yeah, because of the way that RPO works, I'm still allowed to go and work in other places and do things like this and take time off and stuff. So I still pop up in other orchestras and get to travel around a bit. Yeah, I think that's it.
Great. I'm going to ask a first question.
Okay.
You said you were on trial.
Yes.
For an orchestra. Generally, when you hear someone's on trial, that's not good. Probably means they've done something naughty. And I'm not going to ask that question, what you've done that's naughty. But could you maybe tell people what that is, what a trial is for an orchestra?
Yeah. So the first thing, when there's a vacancy in an orchestra, so they had a missing third horn, and they put it up like you would for any job. They put it up online. They put it, everyone knows, oh, we're advertising for this job vacancy, and so then you can apply. And they usually do it on an online form. You apply, you send in your CV, and then they give you an audition. So I went to do the audition, and they often have a blind first round now. So they put a big screen up, and you just walk in and you play from behind the screen. You don't speak, they don't say hello or anything. Well, they do say hello, but you're not supposed to say hello back. And then you play, and if you get through that, you might do a second round, which is without the screens, and they get to meet you. And then I got a trial from that. So there was probably about 5 or 6 people who were also on trial. And it can be any number. I mean, I've heard of 20 people being put on trial. That's kind of crazy. It can be 2. Like, it can really vary. So I was quite a happy number in between. And then basically over time, so for me it was over a year, they book me for various patches. So it always works in little projects. We'll have 2 rehearsals and a concert, and then 3 rehearsals and a concert, and then just a concert. And you'll get booked for small amounts of work. And then the other members that are on are kind of listening to you and seeing how you fit in the section, deciding what they think of your playing and stuff. So it can be quite intense. It's a bit like doing a job interview like 20 times in a row. But hopefully you have a lot of fun as well. And it also gives you a chance to work out whether you like working there. And I think a lot of people, when they're on trial, they forget that fact, because we tend to think, well, I really, really want the job. So of course I want to do well. But just like there's a lot of jobs that we wouldn't like to have in the real world, there are some orchestral jobs which you find you don't get along with, and that's totally okay. So over the year, I found I really like working there as well, and they like working with me. And so then they asked if I would like to take the job, basically.
What did you say?
I said yes.
Oh.
Actually, what I did say was, oh my God, can I go call my mum? That's what I said. And then they said, is that a yes? And I said, that's a yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. So the question was from Sabrina, how do you manage your workload of all the different things?
Yeah, it can be challenging. I think it's something you have to practice. And I think, I started working as a freelancer when I was in second year at my time at the Royal Academy. So I think I was already quite good at managing the different parts of my life. But for me, it's a lot of calendars and a lot of notebooks. I like to make lots of lists. And it's you almost have to try not to look too far in advance. Actually, that's kind of the trick. I used to, I'd think about a concert I had in 6 months and be like, right, when am I going to start preparing for that and all that kind of stuff. But when you've got too many of those, actually, that's unsustainable. So I often compared it to like when I was doing GCSEs and A-levels, or especially GCSEs, where you seem to have just so many exams. And before it, you're revising for all of them at once, and it's so stressful. But then once the first one's done, you're just revising for the next one and the next one and the next one. So actually, I prefer to live in the shorter term preparation. So I'll just think, I've got my list and I go, right, here's the next 2 weeks. Here's all the work I'm doing. Which stuff am I already prepared for? Cross it off. Which stuff am I moderately prepared for? do a bit of practice on that. Which stuff am I terrified about? Right, I'll really practice that. So kind of working out priorities is definitely a big part of it, and letting yourself just do enough and not always go the extra mile, which is a bit of a tricky thing because you don't want to encourage like not working really, really hard. But because I decided to do lots of different things and like, with the chamber music and everything, I think I realized like, well, if I'm going to do all of this stuff, I'm not going to be able to give 100% to every single bit of it all the time. So if I want to do it all, I have to only give 100% to the things which I really think need my 100%. And the other things which I think will be totally fine if I give 50%, I'll do that. And then if someone, a year down the line says, actually, your 50% is not good enough, then I go, okay, maybe I can't do that thing anymore. But for now, that seems to be the way I handle it.
Yeah, musicians generally find it hard to say no.
Yeah.
Because we get paid for the work we do. So when someone offers you work, you tend to say yes.
Yeah.
And the sort of the concern that it's going to go away. It's difficult. It's a really difficult balance, isn't it?
Mm.
So the question is, are there any groups other than the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra that you really want to work with or really enjoy working with?
So I have worked with and really enjoy working with the Aurora Orchestra. I don't know if any of you guys have seen anything that they do. I think they're a really incredible group. The projects that I've been involved with have been their big works by memory. So the first thing I did with them was The Rite of Spring, and we did the whole thing by memory. So we all probably spent about 3 months, maybe not solidly. We did other stuff as well, but we had 3 months basically of homework to memorize that piece. So I was on horn 3 for that one, and so I got the third horn part and I memorized it, and then we did the project and it was absolutely amazing. And I did Firebird with them in October. I got to play principal for that one. That was amazing. So because I'm a third horn in my job, I eventually would like to move up to more principal work, and I do it occasionally now on the side. So I find when I get to go into other orchestras and I get to be sort of a guest principal, I really enjoy that because it feels like I'm not on trial because I'm not applied for the job. There's no vacancy. So you don't have it doesn't feel like you're under the same kind of judgment, and you get to just go in, enjoy yourself, make the most of that opportunity because you don't know if it will come back. Like hopefully it does, and that's great. But if it doesn't, you just have to enjoy that one as it sort of comes by. So, but yeah, so Aurora I'm a big fan of what they do.
If any of the older ones on social media, check out Aurora's social media platforms. Go back to October and find some recording. There's something of the Firebird, and you might see a young lady you recognise playing an awesome solo from memory at the back of the orchestra. So the question is, why did you choose horn playing in the first place?
Yeah.
And what sort of setbacks have you got, if you had, as you tried to progress in your career?
Okay, so I sort of came across the horn a bit by accident. My parents are both musicians. They're both jazz musicians, actually. But for some reason, I never fancied saxophone or the accordion, which is what they play. But my older brother started playing the trombone. We were just like given a trombone from someone. They said they didn't want it anymore. You have it. So he started playing trombone, and I then said to my parents I wanted to play the tuba, and I don't know why, because I don't think I'd ever seen one. I was about 5, and so I said I want to play tuba. And what I was picturing, I remember it in my mind, is that I was obviously tiny, and I was like, I want this huge instrument and I want to play it, but I want to be this big and I want this instrument. And they were like, okay, great. And so then they handed me a mini euphonium, and I just remember getting it, being like, this is not what I asked for. Like I wanted a big, this was like my size. I was like, no, you don't understand. I want the really big. Anyway, so I was a bit disappointed, but I started playing that. And that was it was fine and fun. And we were taught at Wells Cathedral School. So we lived locally. My parents taught at that school, which is like half music school. And we were taught privately, by the teachers that were there. So I was taught euphonium. And then as Jamie was playing more trombone, I was like the younger sister that just wanted to do everything that he did. So I was like, I want to play the trombone as well. So then I made my parents let me.
You've had a rough childhood.
I know, it took me a long time to see the light, so I was playing trombone, and it was my trombone teacher, who was Alan Hutt in Wells. He said, oh, you've got like quite a good ear. You should try the French horn. And also the school needs French horn. So if you learnt that, you'd have a better chance going to the school. And obviously I was like 9, so I didn't really care or know what that meant. But if a teacher tells me to try it, I'll be like, okay, sure. Yeah, I didn't know what the French horn was, what it looked like. I was expecting more like the trumpet, actually. But then it was sort of just given to me. I was like, okay. So I sort of drifted into it. It was never so much of a like, oh, I really love to play the French horn. I didn't put it together with like being in an orchestra for a very long time. It was only when I went to Wales then, when I was 11, that we got to play in bands and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, this is fun to play with people. Yeah, so very much by accident. That's how I started on the horn. As far as setbacks, I think, to be honest, mostly looking back, I've been very lucky. I think COVID was probably the biggest change for me. Apart from, I had a wobble when I was like 16, 17, where I wasn't sure if I wanted to play the horn. I think that was because I drifted into it from the start. And then, I saw my brother go off to music college and a lot of friends go off to music college, and I knew that was an option. But I wasn't really sure whether I really wanted that, or how much I, really needed it in my life, this kind of thing. And so I sort of explored what it would be like. What if I went to uni, or what if I studied English, or, I looked at different paths. And then I realized it was making me really sad to think about not playing the horn anymore. So it wasn't necessarily a choice of like, I really, really want to play the horn because I love it so much. It was like, I can't possibly put it down. I have to do it. So that's why then I eventually decided. And pretty much since then, I've been very determined with that. I've not had too many crises. I had a very good first teacher. Simon D'Souza taught me for 7 years, and he set me up with kind of like very like textbook technique essentially, which seemed to work well for me. Which basically meant I went to academy and I didn't have to, do an embouchure reset. I didn't have to do a lot of things that people often have to struggle with in their first year. So I think I had a bit of an advantage there. So I think no kind of horn playing crises, more, external world pandemics and stuff, basically.
So this question's from Lilia Rose, who's a student at Wells. She's asking, what did you enjoy best about being at Wells?
I think, I don't know. It's really difficult. I had a really great time there, and I think it was the amount of opportunities that were like a given. Because I think not that I took it for granted, like I really enjoyed them, but I didn't necessarily realize how unusual it was. I didn't do NYO, I didn't do junior academy, didn't do any of the extra stuff because I genuinely felt like I had no need for any more music. I was like, I'm done. This is plenty for me. Like doing symphony orchestra once a week was like, cool. That's loads. And then, if I was put into the brass quintet or brass 10-piece, it was like, this is amazing. And so getting to go to school and be friends with the people that then you're also playing music with, I think is really nice. But then also having the non-musicians around you to keep you like having a different perspective on the world, I think is so helpful. Again, I think if I hadn't been at Wells, I think when I had my sort of, do I really want to do this crisis, I think I would have been more scared because at Wells I could really say, okay, like, maybe I do want to go do English or like psychology, and they could be like, okay, well, you would then go to this uni, or you go check out this UCAS fair and go learn about it. It felt like they had all of the facility to just show me what I could try. But then equally when I went, actually no, fully music, it's got to be music, and then they go, great, that's okay too. Like, here you go. Definitely got its flaws as a school in its own way, but I think mainly the opportunities. I'll keep blathering, so I'll stop there. Yes, good.
Awesome. Oh, here's a question. So what bit of advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Oh, man. To trust my gut instincts, I think. I think that's what I did. I think it took me a while to realize I should do that. I don't think I did that until I was like 18. So when I had my sort of instinct that maybe this isn't right, I needed to think about that, and I needed to explore that possibility and not shut it down. So, and then when I was choosing where to study, like between conservatoires, I also just trusted my gut instinct. It wasn't, when I looked at a lot of stuff on paper, I might have come out with a different answer of like, oh, actually, maybe I should go there because of all these pros and all these cons. But in the end, I felt a certain way about, like when I went to the academy, for example, I was like, I just like it here. And I just felt like I had to do it. And so that all seemed to work out for me. So I think trusting my gut instinct, it's always hard because then I kind of think, oh, would I have told myself to like work harder and stuff? But I actually don't think I would have done. I think I was working hard enough, but I also probably could have had a bit more fun. So yeah, it's difficult. I think also, like for me, 16, it's such a weird time when you're 16. Like I feel like that's 10 years ago for me now, exactly. And like you just got so much stuff going on in your head, and with your friends and with
Don't
your
say that.
school
There's
and
lots of
everything.
14 and 15-year-olds here.
I'm
going,
sorry,
"Oh,
guys.
no."
I'm sorry. Everyone has that. The weird, the teenage age is just such a challenging time. So like, just take care of yourself, and yeah, you'll learn lots more about yourself when you're older. And yeah, it's just it can be very, very difficult around 16. So be nice to yourself if you're having a tough time. If you're not having a tough time, enjoy that. And like, I think when I was happy and 17, I didn't often notice it enough. I'm like, oh, I'm having a good time. This is great. Yeah. So gut instinct is important.
So it's a bit of an open-ended
Oh,
question.
gosh.
See how briefly you can answer this. What advice would you give to young horn players?
Okay. Find the music that you really, really love. And that doesn't have to be classical music, doesn't have to be horn music, and find a way to play that as much as you can. And I think if you've always got something that when you pick up your instrument, you know is going to make you happy to play, that will carry you through so many challenges. Because often, especially as orchestral musicians, we don't usually get to decide the music we play. Yes, we can say no to certain work and yes to certain work, but often the program is decided for us. There'll be other situations where you get to choose your own program. That's really exciting. But I think if you know deep down, like finding the music and the reason that you love music, and that does not have to be horn playing. For me, it's rarely horn playing that I listen to when I need to be cheered up and stuff. That just doesn't do it for me in the same way. I really love playing horn music. I don't always want to listen to it. So I think if you can find something that makes you really, really happy, there's always a way to bring that onto the instrument. I remember over lockdown, I got really into listening to Blazing Fiddles, which is a folk band. And folk music is so hard to play on the horn because it's all just like, that's really hard, obviously. But if I can just sort of sit, listen to that, and just see if I can, noodle along or something, that actually can sometimes make me so much happier than sitting for an hour and practicing some stuff that I know is going to improve me as a player. So always finding the parts of horn play that make you happiest. That would be the young advice.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips? Everyone's ears are pricked up now, aren't they? Do you have any tips on how to play high notes on the French horn? Question from Bethany there.
So there's sort of a few different answers, and so you have to sort of suspend your disbelief and pretend I'm only giving you one. But when I used to ask my old teacher that, he would say, they'll come on their own time. Don't worry about it. And that can be really frustrating to hear. Because like, no, I want them now. Like, bring them to me now. But actually, he was kind of right, because I think especially as a young player, when you're just starting to develop your range, the ways in which you might try and get out high notes are not going to be like sustainable, and it's not going to be great technique, and it might be loads of tension and loads of air and stuff which actually if you had a different set of chops you wouldn't need. So I think for a lot of it, if you can be patient and keep working on your general playing and making a nice sound and using, breathing properly, good support, all of that, the high notes start to appear, because your window of what becomes easy increases and increases, and then suddenly, that top E used to be really hard and now it's actually the G that's really hard, So there's that answer. If you really want to actually like properly practice playing high, you can do that. And I think the key is to not do it for very long. And if you think about it like doing high intensity workouts or something, it's like feels a bit weird for very young players. But for example, if you're lifting weights and you went straight for a really, really heavy weight and you could hardly lift it, if you then try and do that 20 times in a row, you're probably not going to be able to move your arms the next day. Whereas if you just did it like once and you're like, well, that was pretty hard and I don't think I could do another one, so let's just stop there. You're then going to see a better improvement. So if you feel like it's something, I mean, like that kind of the same with any aspect of horn playing. If there's something you find really difficult and you think the way you're doing it at the moment is not comfortable and really, really, really difficult, then doing it for a much shorter amount of time and then just coming back to check on it. The next time you practice, go, just try a little bit, put it down, try it again the next day. You just don't want to be doing anything that's going to cause you injury or set in bad habits. And that's the key thing for when you're a young player, is you want to try and build as many good habits as possible. And stuff that you find difficult now inevitably will change so much in time. So don't get too bogged down. If there's one aspect of your horn playing that you think is like your most difficult bit, that will be completely different in 2 years, kind of regardless of what you do. So yeah, just patience, I'd say.
So the question from Josie is, do you still get nervous, particularly when you play principal horn in orchestras? How do you deal with those nerves?
Yes, big time. Still get nervous. Yeah, I mean, there are occasionally concerts where I don't feel nervous, and actually I start to enjoy them less. And that's what the biggest thing for me has been, realizing how much feeling nervous can increase your your enjoyment of the experience of playing the horn. Because if we see the nerves as like a thing that's just there to trip us up, then of course it's like, why would I ever want to feel nervous? This sucks. But if we see it as it's just how excited you are to be there and how much and how badly you want to do well, then it's a really lovely thing. So it's working out the right amount of nerves that you can handle and at what point they become unhelpful. Because obviously then if they develop into, you feel like you're really shaky and you can't breathe properly, that's not great. But if you feel like it's just a kind of general bit of tension that's somewhere in your stomach and okay, but you're still playing well, then that's fine. And actually you can see it as this real excitement and engagement. And when we're nervous, we're so present. Actually, we're really in the moment. Obviously, we're probably a bit like thinking way too like, oh no, something bad's gonna happen. But actually we're fully experiencing that moment. So it's a very weird thing if you ever do a concert and you don't feel any nerves at all. It's quite sad. I sort of came off a couple of concerts once and I was like, oh, I just feel nothing. And it was like, even if I made a mistake, I didn't really care. So actually nerves are just a way of our body showing us how much we are invested in it going well. As far as dealing with nerves, I've got a lot of different tools which I use. And I recommend that if anyone here does feel like they often get nervous and it gets in the way of their playing, find a toolkit of stuff that you can use. And it can really be anything. And sometimes making up your own tools is the best way to go. But for me, doing things before the concert can really help. Getting in the right frame of mind. I give myself a little pep talk in the mirror if I'm feeling really stressed. My dad told me this one. I properly go and look at myself in the mirror and go, you're a fantastic horn player. You're going to do a great job. Everyone loves you. You're so funny. You're so great to be around. Like all that kind of stuff. Like
that's my talk things. As well. That's exciting.
Yeah, so like, it can go way beyond the horn. Because often what we're nervous about, again, like you were saying at the beginning, is looking silly. And so what we're afraid of then is not that people are going to think that like we're not as good at the horn. It's like that we're going to look stupid or be embarrassed or something. So if you can soothe yourself in that way and be like, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, you're just here to have fun and just you're going to have a great time. It's going to go so well. And I tend to also bring in, I say, well, you're probably going to feel really nervous. That's okay. Like try and welcome the nerves, let them wash over you. And it's just how much you want to be there. You're so excited about this. Reminding yourself that even if you do the worst performance of your life, that's all that's going to happen. It's not going to get any worse than that. And we think that that is a huge catastrophe. And really it's not. I've been at work and had some terrible days. And I've seen some colleagues go through terrible days at work. And I never once have heard someone then go, oh, they're really going downhill, aren't they? Like it's always just, oh man, yeah, bad day. We've all had them, So I think when you're all in the same boat, it can really help when you're playing with people. And you can remember that as a principal horn as well. Everyone is there on your side. Everyone wants you to do a good job. No one is rooting against you ever, unless they're really mean. But like that's crazy. But as a soloist, it can be you can get more nervous because you feel even more exposed sometimes. And I think in the moment, then for me, it's just things like just remembering to breathe deeply. Because the first thing I do when I get nervous is my breathing is all up here. It's all on my chest, and I can't seem to breathe into my stomach because it's so tense because I'm so nervous. So if I can really force breathing into my stomach, and then automatically your body starts to relax. Because when we do breathe deeply, that's literally our nervous system starts to calm down. Like biologically, there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to calm down. So if you can just remind yourself to breathe deeply, and then bringing a bit of movement, I actually find help. So this is even if you're sat down and you're feeling like a bit shaky, a bit whatever, if you can just try shifting a little bit in your seat, maybe just moving the shoulders, anything to just let some of the nervous energy kind of roll around your body, that can be really, really helpful. And I sort of visualize it as like a wave. So this happens for like almost, for anxiety as well. If you're a person that gets a bit anxious occasionally, and if you can think of it like, okay, just got to sit through a wave of anxiety and then it starts to wash away. And there might be another one straight after and you can sort of ride it out. I think the worst feeling is when we feel nervous and we feel static and we're like, I've just got to sit here and experience this and it's horrible and I want it to end. Whereas actually, if you can see it as this thing that's ebbing and flowing, then you get the moments of calm and it'll come back, oh my God, and then you're okay. So I think, lots of visualization, but there are like a million more techniques. And so find the ones that work, try them out. When they work, like remember them. And so then you've got them in your back pocket for when you need it most.
And when you do find a good technique, practice it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like practice. There's no point in spending all those hours practicing the horn if then you're not going to enjoy being on stage and you're shaking. So if you find something you're doing, keep doing it, keep repeating it, do it in your practice. Yeah. Your imagination is an amazing thing. You can pretend you're going on stage and practice those things. Don't leave it till when you need it. really, really need it. Do it all the time and practice these things.
Yeah.
Great. Should we say a massive thank you to Miss Zoë Tweed?
Oh.